is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have a few things that we're going to be talking about today, as some of the ensembles are picking up some long-term development in the main development region, as well as some development from the Central American gyre as well. We're starting to see an uptick on models based on that, particularly the GFS is supporting a signal over there. So we're going to be talking about that today. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it right here. And starting off, here's the National Hurricane Center's latest advisory from Invest 91L, since that is kind of our current situation we have right here. Yesterday, we were at a 60-90 chance of development right here. Now we are down to a 30-60 right here at this current point in time. We've seen the chances really go down considerably over the last 24 hours, although they kind of have slowed down in terms of the amount they've backed off on. So let's go ahead and read out what's going on. Shower and thunderstorm activity remains limited in association with a tropical wave over the central tropical Atlantic. A drier air mass is limiting the potential for development over the next couple of days, and environmental conditions remain only marginally favorable thereafter. A tropical depression could form during the early to middle part of next week as the system moves westward at around 10 miles per hour across the central tropical Atlantic. This system is likely to be near the Lesser Antilles by the middle to later part of next week, and interest there should monitor its progress. 30% in the next 48 hours, 60% in the next 7 days. So that's kind of our situation that we have over there. One thing I do want to note was this system was expected to potentially develop into something pretty huge at this point yesterday. At the time of recording this, by the time the 12Z runs came out and I made that video, all the support really just dropped on it. And the NHC just started decreasing chances considerably on this. So that's kind of your situation we have for you right here. And we'll go ahead and show you satellite imagery just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on with this and how this system is evolving. So going right here, and we're going to go ahead and go to the Central Atlantic for this right here. One thing I do find interesting is you do see an increase of convection with Invest 91L at the time of recording this video. That's because I believe diurnal max is going on in that region, either that or it's just past Dmax right here. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But ultimately, the situation you have with this is the vorticity of this is getting completely stretched out over the next few days, and that's what's going to limit its development probabilities. And then after that, the conditions just do not become favorable, and then the system is ultimately expected to really not do that much according to the models. I know the NHC gives it a 60% chance of formation, but honestly, I would give it more like a 20% at this current point, given what we're dealing with right here. So that's what you're dealing with satellite, at least from infrared. And looking at water vapor imagery for you guys right here, yeah, it's moving into a drier air mass across much of the western main development region right here. So that's the main reason why we're not expecting development. This dry air, number one, was not expected to be this far to the south. It kind of drove a bit further to the south than expected from the latest run right here. So we're going to have to pay attention to that as well, especially for also our long-term threat as well that we will talk about just in a little bit. But by and large, just ultimately we went from very favorable to not very favorable in the span of about 48 hours. And of course, the warning signs were there. We weren't trying to ignore them, but we were looking at the kind of the pluses and minuses, and it seemed that given its further south than expected initialization period, and given it was in better conditions than expected, we were thinking, yeah, this had a pretty good shot of development, but obviously this didn't pan out, and it's probably not going to pan out in the long run. So that's kind of the main reason for it right here. And lastly, looking at true color imagery right here, yeah, the sun is just rose right here. So I am curious to see how this convection will hold throughout the day. if it does hold throughout the day, throughout a diurnal minimum, and with the sun coming out right here to kind of limit the cloud top temperatures with that, I will go, okay, that's going to be kind of interesting. You're going to want to pay attention a little bit more than usual to that, because that is sustained convection, and that maybe you could see something pop up from there. But ultimately, if the convection dies off today, you can just kiss those chances goodbye pretty much. So this is kind of the last chance this really has to develop, in my opinion. Today, it will either make or it'll break, and my guess is it will likely break given the conditions it has in front of it, wind shear's diving a bit further to the south as well, and the fact that the vorticity is going to be stretched out in the next couple of days as the system moves further towards the west, because this is expected to interact with that the vorticity that we were talking about in yesterday's models and yesterday's video. So that's something you're going to want to consider as well. But by and large, just not a good chance of development at this current point, and unless something completely unexpected happens, this will probably be one of if not the last times for tropical development that we will talk about right here. And rather, we will focus more on long-term threats, as the Climate Prediction Center is highlighting them, and so is potentially some of these models that we're watching. So we're going to go ahead now and shift over to the ensembles to kind of talk about those runs, because the European is favoring more of an MDR threat, while the GFS is favoring more of a gyre threat. So we're going to want to talk about those two models for you right there, and let's go ahead and shift over. So here is what we have for you right here. This is the 0Z GFS right here. First of all, here's the 12Z GFS for context for this as well. So we're definitely seeing a bit of an uptick compared to what we saw with the 12Z ensembles with the GFS, especially with the Central American gyre over here. I'm actually going to go ahead and zoom in to that region over there, and we can go ahead and give you an idea of what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in, and we're going to go ahead and go back to about 5 days out, just to kind of give you some context to this. 5 days out, you notice that there's a few low pressure pressure ensembles starting to kind of get blipped up over here in this part of the Atlantic. So that's something to go to watch right there. And if it's anything like after 6 days out that starts popping up, normally I'd be a bit more skeptical about it. I'd be like, okay, let's wait for more data and information on that. But by the time we get to about 6 days out, you're noticing those ensembles do start to organize and detach from the gyre and start to pop up and show a little bit more power affiliated with it. Granted, you do have about 5 ensembles that do support this at this current point in time, but those ensembles really start to turn out I'd say about 180 hours out. We can go ahead and show 180 hours out. You're noticing a lot more ensembles starting to pop up across the Central American gyre right here, and some of them have some decent power: 1002, 1002, 1003, 1005, 996, 991, 979, 988 as well. And you're noticing a lot more ensembles starting to pop up with quite the spread across much of the Western Caribbean. Some have it originating off of Nicaragua, some have it originating off of Honduras, some have it moving through the Yucatan Peninsula. But this is already 180 hours out right here, and that's something you're going to want to keep an eye on. So now we can go ahead and go to 192 hours out. That's about 8 days, and you do start noticing more ensembles picking up on this again, and then going to 9 days out right here. 9 days out, you're seeing a bit of an upswing in the ensembles. You're seeing quite a few of them actually heading potentially towards Louisiana and making landfall as a hurricane or strong tropical storm right there. Now, granted some of the runs have kind of not really been the most optimal in the past, I am a little bit skeptical of this, but this does pose a threat, and considering we are seeing a bit of an upswing in the chances for this, as well as the operational run showing this possibility to some extent, we're definitely going to want to watch this, because the operational run is on top of this as well. So we're going to need to keep a very close eye on this for you right here. And lastly, going to 10 days out right here. 10 days out, we're definitely seeing a lot more ensembles popping up with this possibility. So we're definitely seeing about 15 to 20 GFS ensembles supporting this compared to what we've seen with 12Z, which we can go ahead and show you. Yeah, the 12Z had it a lot less right here. It was a lot more spread out as well, and you didn't really see as many scenarios going for it, and it was a lot more spread out across much of the gyre, across much of the Gulf as well. So we're gonna want to pay attention to that as well, and keep close tabs on this. I'm just moving this over to give you to show you what's going on. It was a lot more spread out and a lot more unreliable at that point, and you'd probably be a bit more skeptical of this, but the 0Z definitely cleaned up a lot of the issues and definitely concentrated a lot more towards the northern Gulf Coast, especially around between Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle, as well at the 0Z run. So we're going to want to watch out for that as well, especially going into mid-September. When the Central American gyre could start waking up, we're gonna see an MJO possibility starting to head over there. So we're gonna want to pay attention to that as well. But zooming out right here, and we're gonna go ahead and shift back to the North Atlantic. We're going to be also wanting to watch the main development region once again for tropical development. We'll go ahead and zoom into that region for you right here. Here's what we have going on. We'll start about 5 days out to give you an idea. Don't really see that much happening, although you do start seeing a lot of ensembles popping out in the eastern Atlantic, and I'll go ahead and give a better zoom right here just to show you what we are looking at right here. Yeah, this is a lot better of a visual that we can present right here. But ultimately, you do have this popping up. You have quite a few ensembles starting to go right here. Then going to 6 days out, you're noticing a lot more ensembles starting to fire off, especially in the eastern MDR, according to the GFS right here. And this is in line with what the Climate Prediction Center has been forecasting for. And then by the time we get to about, 8 days out, you're noticing strong tropical storm strength with these ensembles as well, according to the GFS. And then going to 10 days out, you're noticing quite a bit more power associated with it. The spread is still relatively large, and there's obviously a lot of uncertainty in regards to this. But ultimately, this is something you're going to want to watch for. And as time goes on, the operational runs, we're going to need to see if the operational runs pick up on this or not, because last I checked, they haven't really just yet. Or if they have, they're pretty weak at this current point. So that's something you're going to want to keep in mind as well. So that's what we have with the GFS. Let's go ahead and go to the European, because the European likes this a lot more. And this is what we got. And let's go ahead and go back to 5 days out for you right here. Here's the situation. European 5 days out in the eastern MDR wants the system to start potentially organizing down the road. You already have a 1,005 millibar system, definitely a lot more concentrated than the GFS. And then going to 144 hours out right here, yeah, it's a lot more concentrated and a lot more model support right here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I think about 20 out of the 30 European ensemble spread that favors tropical development or a tropical wave trying to get its act together. Going to 7 days out as well, you're looking at a more concentrated spread moving forward. And then going to 8 days out, you're looking at this, and you're definitely seeing a lot more power associated with it as well. It's a lot more concentrated than the GFS as well, a lot more certainty in that regard as well, but you're going to want to keep a very close eye on it. Then things really start to ramp up 9 days out according to the European. So you're going to want to watch out for this right here. In terms of potential impacts to land, we don't know. It's too far out to determine, but still a lot of power and quite a bit of spread with this ensemble right here. The European definitely likes it out here in the main development region. The question is, what are the rest of the models going to do? And we're going to go ahead and show you some of those right here. Here's what we have for the European. We're going to go ahead and show you that, the GFS, the Canadian, and the Icon, so we can go ahead and get started. Here's what we have for the European. The European does not really favor the gyre development as much as the GFS does, so you're going to want to watch out for that. I want to see if the European is going to kind of lean towards the GFS, or if the GFS backs off and favors more of the MDR situation over there. If one of those two happens, you're going to go, okay, this is going to be pretty interesting going forward right here. And then what we're noticing about 5 days out, you start to notice this low pressure system in parts of the main development region starting to organize and potentially get its act together. You do have the European favoring weak tropical depression to weak tropical storm strength. With this, especially by the time we get to about 8 days out, right here, it's really wanting to get its act together and the kind of starting to catch up to the ensembles already. It's kind of uncertain with the amount of spread it has and the amount of spread with the power associated with it too. But the European does favor more MDR development down the road. I am a little bit skeptical of what's going on over there, given what happened last time with 91L, where things looked really good, then all the models just collapsed all at once, and then things started getting its act together after that. So I am a little more skeptical with this, and I would say with this run, I would take it with a grain of salt. In fact, I would take all of these runs with a huge grain of salt given what happened, because 1 minute things look really good, the next they don't. So please do keep that in mind. So that's what you have with the European. Let's go ahead now and show you the GFS run as well. We'll go ahead and show you the 0Z GFS. It's not favoring MDR development as much, but it is favoring Central American gyre development as well, more so. And as you can see with the operational, it's really starting to catch up. This is about 7 days out, mind you. And actually, the GFS does want something to happen in the MDR. I am mistaken at this right here. The GFS actually has a double barrel situation going on in this region right here. So the European and GFS definitely are in agreement that something may be happening in the MDR, but keep in mind, by the time you start seeing both of these scenarios, this is about 6+ days out, so a lot can change, a lot can happen. We're going to keep you updated on all of this, but ultimately, the model is liking a double barrel scenario where something first happens in the MDR and then happens simultaneously off the Central American gyre. So that's something you're going to want to watch out for. And the GFS does support a 999 millibar system making landfall in the Florida Big Bend region right here. Although I will say the vorticity is quite a bit stretched out with this, and I can go ahead and show you that. Yeah, it's quite a bit stretched out with this right here, so you're going to want to watch out for this as well. This vorticity will be very curious to see how this interacts, and quite honestly, I'm a little bit curious to see how that will ultimately pan out, because if this is a scenario where this develops before it gets up to there, I'd be a little bit more sympathetic and go, okay, yeah, this system could definitely get its act together before it runs into that. But if it doesn't and it takes more time, you'd go, yeah, this is not looking as favorable right here, so you're going to want to pay attention to it. In terms of what's going on in the MDR, I don't really have that big of an issue with it, although the GFS really goes aggressive with this going as a pretty strong Category 3 system by the time we get to like 2 weeks out. So please take that with a grain of salt. It does agree with the European in terms of its development chance, so you're going to want to watch out for that. But that's kind of your situation with the GFS. We'll go ahead and show you the Canadian run. Canadian run is pretty interesting as well. Canadian run doesn't really show much with the gyre. It does favor some more MDR development, although it stays relatively weak on this. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and show you the icon. Here's the 0Z icon as well, just kind of showing you that as well. Not really the best model to run things, but again, it does start to show maybe something starting to get its act together in the MDR, but it's mainly the European and GFS once again leading the charge on this. So that's something you're going to want to watch out for as well. Conditions will definitely be a lot better, especially in that part of the Atlantic, as a lot of the stability issues do start to resolve themselves going into mid-September as well. And as well, also considering the shear won't be as big of a threat as well, and the dry air won't be as big of an issue in that part of the Atlantic as well, considering the amount of mixing that's been going on with all the convection there previously. So those are all things that we're going to be watching for, and those are all things that we're going to continue to keep an eye on here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. We're not going to be streaming again tonight because there's not really that much going on. Stay tuned though, because we might be streaming if we see more model support with either the gyre or MDR system as well, so stay tuned for that. But be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you would like to help out, hang out, or ask us some questions, feel free to join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that is in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.